Yeah, I've got a plate and 12 screws in this wrist and my forearm from a pretty horrific crash I had 12 days before my wedding because I was dumb enough to race
Oh,
right before my wedding.
Is there anybody there?
all right, all right, all right. Well, welcome everybody to yet another episode of the Data Chronicles. My name is Ed, also known as the Dad Hat. All right, so guys, as you guys already know, last episode, a couple of episodes, I have done where we are going into having a person who is in a different sport than the one I love, which is baseball. We had our good friend Mike Sellers of the Up to Chat podcast do a little bit of training, training me into what is called tennis. That went, I don't know how that went. But anyways, today I got a good friend of mine who is used to be a semi-pro athlete in the world of cycling. And she is going to teach me all about this. And then I will probably retain none of it, and then I'm going to feel bad about myself because I don't have to rewatch the episode. So that's a good thing that it is recorded. So for all of those of you that are watching, thank you so much. Make sure that you go on the YouTube channel and hit the like and go ahead and make sure that you subscribe as well. But now that we got that out of the way, Katie, how are you today?
I'm good. Hopefully, I'm exciting enough that you'll remember something out of this episode.
No, I will remember everything because I watch the Tour de France. I watch it every time. I was telling a friend of mine that I was having, I was going to have you come on, and they're like, "Oh, that's cool." I'm like, yeah, because I watched the tour. I even watched the tour of Down Under, the Australian one. Those are exciting stuff. So I want to know, from your point of view, someone who does that. I'm sure you still, get your bike out and all that.
Yep.
I want you to teach me about cycling. Okay.
Well, okay. Where do you want me to start? Because there is an entire massive world of cycling that I feel like most Americans don't know about because it's not a huge sport here. I'm sure every European under the sun knows everything about cycling because it's huge over there. It's like football and baseball over there is cycling. So where would you like me to start?
Well, let's start with you, right? How, like, for example, like, how did you get into the sport?
Okay. So a long time ago, back in grad school, I won't say how long ago it was because that will
no, let's not get into that. No, absolutely not.
That will age me. I was into triathlons because I had been a runner throughout high school and a little bit in college, did track and field for a year and then decided I'd rather go study abroad. So that didn't last long, but I kept running. And then I decided to get into triathlons in grad school because I had swam a little bit when I was younger. But in my first few triathlons, I found out that I was really good at cycling. And I did not know that you could race just bikes. Because, like I said, it's not a big thing here in America.
True.
And so I found a cycling club at the University of Oklahoma, which is where I was going to grad school, met a bunch of awesome people who really helped me get into the sport, and just started riding with local groups around Oklahoma and at the university. Did some collegiate racing, raced collegiate nationals my first year, and then it just took off from there. And I loved it so much. Never looked back, just kept growing in the sport for, I don't know, the better of 10 years or so.
Wow.
Yes. So it all started in grad school.
So you're just like, yep, we're just going to go ahead and, I'm just going to pick up a bike and then, I'm really good at this.
Yeah. And what's funny is that my parents didn't think that I would be sticking with this sport because it is so just not a huge thing in America. So they didn't want to help me purchase a bike at the time because I was a, poor grad student basically, and or an undergrad.
You need a bike for?
Yeah. And so I used my dad's kind of cruiser style bike for like my first couple of races. And then when they saw I was actually decent at it, then I got my first bike off of eBay, which was too big for me. I didn't know anything about bike sizing and just rode it till I figured out the sport and got different bikes throughout the years that actually fit me a little bit better that I could race.
That's insane. That is also really good. Like, I mean, like if they were going to be making a movie, and I was like, "Yep, I just started with a cruiser bike, and then off we went." That's how
Oh
it
yeah.
started.
Yeah, it was funny when I rolled up with that bike at the triathlon. People were looking at me like, this girl has no idea what she's doing.
Oh my god! But hold on. So you did triathlon, but did you ever do duathlons?
I did a couple.
Okay,
Yes.
all right.
Yeah. I did triathlons for a couple of years. I did 2 half Ironmans. I did some duathlons, triathlons of various distances.
Yep.
Yeah. So I did a few of those.
So the half Ironman is the 70.3, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Hmm.
Look at me.
Yes.
I like
Everyone who's into the Ironmans are very into it, but I did it. I wasn't as so into it as maybe some of the other triathlete communities. I did not get the Ironman tattoo on my leg. We'll just
Oh,
we'll just say that.
wow. Oh god, see, that's it. You're out of the cult already.
I know I was out of the culture at that point.
Yeah, so it's like triathlons and then like CrossFit, like that's what they're saying about that those two sports. It's like it's very
Mhm.
cult like once you're in, you are in.
Yeah. Yes. Yes. Very true.
Uh, so let me ask you this then. All right, so right, you're doing your triathlons, you're doing your duathlons and all that stuff, and like
Mhm.
you get your first bike, which didn't fit for you. Which also, by the way, I did find out later on in life the same thing that like you got to get properly fitted for a bike because if you don't, you're gonna be suffering.
Correct.
But how
Mhm.
did you like? How did you get discovered technically? I guess that's my question is like, to go into being a professional, semi-professional athlete.
Mhm. So back in Oklahoma, when I was living in Oklahoma City, I was on a team called DNA Racing that was a really
Mhm,
well-known team kind of throughout the Oklahoma, Texas, Arkansas area. And it was mainly a men's team, but we had a small women's team. And I have to say that the guys on that team and just the people who would ride with the team and the community really helped me develop a lot of my core skills as a cyclist and helped train me from being, a beginner, what we call category 4 cyclist, all the way up to category 1, 2 cyclist, which is more of like the pro fields.
mhm,
And once I got to that point, it wasn't long after that that we moved to South Carolina.
mhm.
And I no longer had this awesome team that I was a part of. And I was desperate to find another really good team to ride with. And so I went to a lot of the local races around here where I had stalked some of the really good women cyclists online to figure out where they were going to be racing. So
There
that
I'm going. Yeah.
yes, I'm going. I want to meet these girls. I want to meet these teams. And I want to go and beat these girls so that they ask me to be on their team.
I,
And that's exactly what I did. I There was a couple of races. It came down to like a field sprint out of a smaller breakaway group, and I just made sure to make my stance and then talk to them afterwards, and it went from there. I just got on a team that I stayed on for a few years after that.
that's awesome. You're like,
Mhm.
I'm gonna show you. Watch me. Who's
Try to.
the alpha? Here I go.
Try to, yeah.
Tried to. You succeeded.
Yeah. Oh, it was a good time.
That's awesome. I love that. So I remember because I'm going to ask you a question here, but I remember one time when, by the way, I don't know if you guys know this. Well, I didn't say this, but Katie and I, we used to work together at another company, right? Katie left before me. I left afterwards. But I remember in one of the trips that I went down to, I think we were doing a one of the events.
Mhm.
You brought your bike with you.
I did.
I remember that. And then you're like, no, I can't eat. I got to eat a certain amount of food that I have to eat and all this other stuff. And I was like, and then I got to go because I got to go in and get on my bike and I got to train. I remember that very vividly.
Mhm.
You had it in
Mhm.
the back of your car seat in your car.
Yep. Yep. I
That,
had it in the back seat of that company car because they wouldn't allow me to put a bike rack on it.
which
So
was
I took the
hilarious. I
wheels
don't
off
understand.
and shoved that thing in the car because it was a small car, but I made it work.
It was a very small car.
Yeah.
And I can't, why would they not let you put a bike rack? It's beyond me.
I don't know. It seems
It,
silly.
hey, right. You know what? It's one of the many things about that place. Anyways,
Yeah.
um, all right. You decided, okay, so I'm gonna go and how you say it, suck these girls, and I'm gonna get them to know me. They're gonna become my BFS forever, because
Mhm.
we're gonna be on a team. So did it happen? Like, how long did it take for you to go from racing against them to racing with them as a team?
It took two specific races where I was racing by myself, just in a blank kit.
Mhm.
And one of them was a circuit race, which is where you're on a smaller course that you do multiple laps around. So it was like a 12.5 mile course, if I remember right, that we
Mhm.
did 4 or 5 times. And then another one was a criterium race, which I like to call NASCAR on bikes. This high speed cornering, shoulder to shoulder, like
Oof.
on a really small circuit, usually within a downtown area. It was in North Carolina, like a half a mile circuit that I made the break with these girls. I did not win that race though, but I at least stayed with them. And then after that, uh, the following year is whenever they asked me to be on the team.
Nice. All right. So
Mhm.
let me ask you this. Let's backtrack a little bit because you said something and I
Okay.
want to make sure that I explain it to everybody. Um, I know what the term is, but what is a kit?
Oh yes. So a kit is your cycling race suit,
Yeah. So,
and it can be a one piece, it could be a two piece, but it's skin tight lycra basically to be as aerodynamic as
yeah,
possible.
gotcha.
Hmm.
I seen that. It's like, when I'm seeing the Tour de France, and because this is, what I watch every year, is they have these very skin tight, like, I mean, it is tight. Like, I mean, it
Tight.
is a part of you.
Yes.
And what I did not really understand until recently when I bought my couple of bike shorts is the padding on the shorts.
Hmm.
Thank you, Jesus, for those things.
The chamois. Yes.
Yeah, let me tell you, because I was never used to that, and then when you start cycling and then you don't have that, it's not fun.
It's not fun. The chamois saves your life. And if you have a properly fitted bike saddle, which you sit on, is also will save your life. And the more uncomfortable the saddle looks, usually the more comfortable it is.
Which is wild to me.
It is, yeah. You don't want to be sitting on this big, cushy saddle. You're going to be rubbed in all the wrong places. You got to have a saddle that's skinnier and usually a little bit firmer, so it's only hitting your sit bones.
I never knew that, and
Hmm.
I'm watching, and I'm like, everybody's like, "Oh, no, no, you need this big thing because you want comfort," and then everyone's like, "No, you really
That's what the
don't."
chamois is for, not the
Yeah,
saddle. Yeah.
that's it's see, thank you, teaching me
Yeah.
things here. I like that. Okay, so you did that, and then you described two races, right? Which
Hmm.
one of them was a criterium, and the other one was a circuit.
Yep.
How many racing types are here in the U.S. that people can,
Yeah.
watch?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we have all kinds of racing. I would say the most well-known race that's truly like what we would say American style racing is criterium racing,
Mhm.
which I said is like NASCAR on bikes. It's in usually an hour to 90 minutes, full gas, like high speed, high cornering or high speed cornering, elbow to elbow, lots of elbow checking. And then there is circuit racing, which, like I said before, a
Mhm.
longer circuit that you do multiple times
Mhm.
within a race. There's a time trial,
Yep.
which is just point A to point B as fast as you can.
And that's a
Um,
solo one, correct? Or
yes,
the
that
team
is.
one? You can do two.
You can do a team time trial, but most time trials around here are going to be solo
Mhm,
on a time trial bike, similar to like what a triathlete would do in a triathlon. And then you have a road race, which for the women at the pro level here in America, usually your races are anywhere from 50 to 80 miles,
mhm.
and it could be one large loop. It could be maybe a couple of loops, but that usually involves a lot more mixed terrain, a lot of climbing here in America, and some
Mhm.
of the bigger road races that we would go to. But those are the main races that you can do here.
Gotcha. Alright, then the average speed on the stage one, what's the average speed for that one?
For like a road race,
Yeah, a road race.
depends on the terrain. So
Okay.
if you're mountain climbing, because there's a race not far from here in the Carolinas where
Mhm.
you climb up like a 2,500-foot climb at the very end of the race. And that might be a little bit different than a road race that has a bunch of rolling terrain. But in the women's pro field, in a road race, you're always going to be averaging at least over 20 miles an hour. If the course is more flat, I mean, a lot of times it's been upwards of 23 miles an hour. Yeah, for, like I said, 50 to 80 miles. So it really depends on the terrain, but it can also depend on the wind.
Yeah, that's insanity to me though, because like I
Yeah.
can average maybe 10 to 12 miles an hour on my bike. And I just threw up when you said, oh, 20 to 23 miles an hour is on average for
The
80
big
miles.
pack makes a difference too. There's a
Oh,
lot of
yeah,
people. Yeah.
obviously.
Yeah.
God, you have done something that I'll never achieve, and I'm so jealous right now, just so you know. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the NASCAR on two wheels?
Yes.
How fast do
Criterion.
you use the criteriums?
Yes.
Um, how fast do you usually go there?
Oh gosh, I would say the fastest crit race I did was one in Chicago where they have 10 days of crit racing back to back, and uh, pancake flat, and the women's field averaged pretty darn close to 26 miles an hour. And the
Jeez,
men's field
gosh.
was averaging like 30 miles an hour,
Oh
up pretty
my
close. I mean,
god.
some of the course, if it's not technical, and meaning, there's not a lot of tight cornering, it's
Y
kind of open, super flat, and you have a group of like 50 girls that are racing. I mean, you can fly on a bike. You can fly.
oh my god.
I would not say that was normal. You're going to be averaging more 23, 24 miles an hour on other
Still.
quick courses. It's still fast, but that one I specifically remember being particularly fast.
Yeah, I mean, it's super fast, first of all, and then second of all, it's like you crash and
Yeah.
there's not a lot of padding. There's no padding because you got
No.
your kit on.
Hmm.
But that oh Lord have mercy.
I don't know if you can see.
Oh,
Yeah, I've got a plate and 12 screws in this wrist and my forearm from a pretty horrific crash I had 12 days before my wedding because I was dumb enough to race
oh,
right before my wedding.
right before your wedding.
Not smart. I don't recommend it anyone do that. Don't do it.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was interesting.
And you on walking down the aisle on a cat with a cast on?
Nope. I walked into an orthopedic surgeon a couple of days after the race when they actually were open
Yeah.
again and told him my situation. He felt so bad for me. He did surgery on me that same day, promised I'd be in a removable cast the day before my wedding, and I was. So I didn't have to wear
Oh,
one at my. But still, I don't recommend racing that close to a big event in your life.
no.
Just
Oh
don't do
God. My wife
it.
just had surgery on her wrist.
Uh,
So, like, I mean, we're going through because she has a plate,
it's
on her
not
wrist.
fun.
No.
Not fun.
Yeah,
No.
she's like all the PT that she has to do and all that, and you are like I mean, how long did it take you from that injury to get back on a bike? Because I mean, that's that's a lot of stress put on your wrist and your forearm.
Yeah, I mean, I probably rode before I was supposed to, but I
Of
would ride the
course.
trainer inside. And once I got in a cast where it was just my forearm
Mhm.
and my thumb, and my hand was kind of like this, I could grab
Just
my handlebar.
yeah.
So I rode outside. Didn't feel great for a while, but I still did it. And I think I got my cast off maybe 6 weeks later
Oh,
or
wow.
so. Yeah, the tan line from that was hilarious when I got that cast off.
So you get a tan line from your kit and then a tan line from your wrist.
Yes, I
That's
looked ridiculous.
that's wild. Could
Yeah,
I mean, good for you. That's some dedication right there. I
yeah,
love it. Uh okay, so you said, before we started recording is that you were not considered a pro, you're considered a semi-pro
yes,
here in the United States. And I
yes.
want you to explain to me and to, the people that are listening here, why were you considered a semi-pro instead of a professional athlete when you're doing all of this?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So, most of the teams here in America, when you are racing at what they call the pro category 1, 2 level, a
Mhm.
lot of those women would really be considered more of like a semi pro because we aren't paid a salary,
Okay.
but we have all of our travel costs paid for. We have race support that do everything for us, meal prep for us, drive in your team car during the race so they can give you feeds and food. Mid race, you get all of your gear given to you, bikes, wheels, tires, kits, nutrition, anything you can think of
Mhm.
was given to us on the team, but we weren't paid a salary. Now, if you are to be on what they would call a UCI Continental team or a UCI World Tour team, that is a step above where our team was at here in America. And those athletes are given salaries and also have all the other benefits that we had plus more. So
Mhm.
those would be considered like your pro athletes, whereas most people here in America you could consider more semi.
Gotcha. Okay. That's pretty cool because you still got a lot of gear from
Oh
that.
yeah, I mean it was it was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, because if you get all your flights paid for, staff to really take care of you, like you are a real pro athlete, just without the paid salary. I mean, it was phenomenal. And we traveled all over the U.S. Our team got to race in Europe. I mean, we went to cool
Oh,
places. So I mean, we had a great time on our team.
that's cool. I'm
Yes.
sure you racked up a lot of mileage, though, frequent flyer miles.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it was fun.
Good. All right. All right. So let me ask you this then. All right. So, and then we'll go into nutrition here in a little bit here, but and then the training and all that. But so you're the day of well, I guess I should back up because obviously training comes first and then the day of the race.
Yeah.
Like, what does that training look like when you made the team, you're being asked, what are the demands? Because I'm sure not everybody lived close enough to you to be part of the team, or am I assuming
Right.
incorrect?
Yep. Our team, so it was technically based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, but we had athletes that were in North Carolina, South Carolina, Pennsylvania, Colorado, Minnesota. Throughout, we had girls from various places throughout the years that I was on the team. And our team was more of a Tour de France style racing team. So
Okay.
we were mainly focused on stage racing, which that's what the Tour de France is. It's a long 21-day stage race.
Mhm.
We would do some criterium racing too, just to, it's good exposure, we'll say, here in America if your team shows up to these big crit races. But we were mainly focused on stage racing. So the training for that is going to be different than
A
teams that
criterion.
were, focused on criterium racing. And the training for each athlete is going to vary based on what your strengths are. So for me, I was a sprinter on the
Mhm.
team.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
yes, I had a decent sprint whenever I was not sick, which happened frequently, sadly, the last like 2 years that I was on the team. So my weaknesses were climbing
The
and
mountains,
just
yeah.
long power. So just on the pedals, nonstop, as much power as you can for an extended period of time. And that is necessary at a lot of the stage racing because we do a lot of climbing in
Mm.
stage racing. And you also have to be decent at time trialing in order to make the time cut. You can't be really slow and make it through each stage, just like in the Tour de France. So a lot of my training was focused on what we call functional threshold power, which is the total power you can output for an hour, or it's like 95% of what you can output over a 20-minute period. And I tried to increase my functional threshold power and therefore my ability to climb
Mhm.
as well as I could. And then I would, also do sprint training so that I wouldn't lose my sprint whenever the team would need me for that. Because
Yeah.
there are some stages that are sprint stages, and I would do my best that I could for the team. But a lot of my training would be focused on climbing and threshold power.
Gotcha. Okay,
Mhm.
so and correct me, if at any point here. So a lot of the teams that obviously you want to win the whole race, but you concentrate on
Right.
trying to win as many stages as possible.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yes.
and every stage is different, right? Because you can one of them is be designed for a sprinter, another one it's a climbing stage. So there's a lot of stages in racing.
Yes. Yes, that's correct. And um, you, so depending on the composition of your team,
Hmm.
you could be a team that is going for stage wins, individual stage wins, because maybe you don't have the best chance to go all in to try and win what's called the general classification or the overall winner of the entire, let's
Hmm.
say, 3 or 4 day stage race. Or you could be a team that maybe has a star individual or a few star individuals that do have the capability of winning the general classification.
Hmm.
And so you may strategically win certain days, or especially the time trial, because that's always key if you're going to win the general classification. And your entire team may be backing that one rider who could win the overall race, and you could be racing a totally different race in that stage race compared to a different team who's just out to win stages.
There's so much
Yes, it's a big
planning.
team sport, very
Yeah.
much a team sport.
Yeah, people don't understand that. Like, well, I didn't at first. I'm like, why is this dude like, all the way, like he did all this work. Now he's gonna fall all the way to the back of the peloton and
Mm-hmm.
just gonna stick there for the rest of the time. And it's, to me, it was like, Mark Cavendish. Like he's the
Yeah,
one that came to mind because he's a sprinter. Uh,
yeah.
and like he was like in the front, they brought him up to win the sprint stage, and then you
Mm-hmm.
just fallen so far behind on the climbing stages.
Yep. That would be me a lot of times too. Or um, I was not like a pure sprinter. I could climb decently well, and there were definitely some races where our in the last year that I was with the team, we had two girls who were phenomenal cyclists who could definitely win the GC, and they did.
Mhm,
And I would go all in for them at specific times in the race. Let's say if there was another team's GC rider who was threatening our GC rider's capability to
mhm.
win.
Okay.
Um, and I would sacrifice myself to do whatever the job was at that point. Let's say close the gap if they were breaking away from us, or sacrifice myself as much as I could up a climb for someone so that they're saving energy behind us. Um, but yeah, I mean that's truly like it's a big team sport, and people don't understand that how much work goes into one person winning a big stage race like the Tour de France, and the people who are off the back barely making the time cut because they went all in for them are
Mhm.
the reason why that one person is on the podium.
That's insanity.
Yeah.
That's awesome at the same time, right? Because everybody thinks it's like, oh, cycling, individual sport. Not really.
No.
No, it is.
Mm-mm.
It is. If you cannot, like if you don't have a good team around you, then you're done for.
You are done. Yeah. At the pro level, if you don't have a good team behind you, you're not going to go anywhere.
Interesting. All right, so let's talk about training. What is that? You said we're going to concentrate on the stage because that's what you mostly did. So talk to me like what a typical training looked like for the team.
Mm-hmm. Um, so you want to talk about like for me specifically, or when we would have like team training camp?
For so both, right? So for
Okay.
you, because I know yours was different than a lot of the other,
Mm-hmm.
because everybody had their own specific thing
Mm-hmm.
that they need to train on, and then
Mm-hmm.
when you guys got together as a team.
Yes. So a typical training week, I would say like a light training week would be 15 hours on the bike. And then a heavy training week could be over 20 hours on the bike. And um,
And you spread this out throughout the week,
yes,
those hours?
over 7 days.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And in order for you to, or in order for me to increase my functional threshold power,
Yeah.
your aerobic capacity has to be really high. And so a lot of our training is going to be what we call zone 2 training, um, which is a relatively moderate intensity level,
Mhm.
but it helps build your aerobic capacity and your ability to move oxygen efficiently throughout your body. And then you would have, say, 2 days a week where you're doing really high intensity intervals, whether it's specifically training, for me, the functional threshold power, or working on your VO2 max, or doing sprints.
Oh,
And so you would have, you know, 2 days a week or so that were spread out throughout the week, where in between those high intensity days, you'd be riding a lot of zone 2 to work that your heart muscle, basically.
mhm. Interesting.
Yes.
So every day was a totally different training for
Yeah.
you just because you were working on different things.
Right. And
No,
Mondays were always my recovery day.
just an easy ride?
Easy hour. Yep.
Okay, all right. So was that plan put together for you? Did you put that plan? Was there a coach or a team manager that put that plan together?
Yes, I had a wonderful coach, Emma, and at the time she was my coach, she raced for TIPCO and EF Education First. And
Hey,
she
I know
was,
that.
yeah, she was the road race US national champ a few years ago. She was absolutely wonderful. She was the coach I needed because she is a climber through and through. And so she knew how to help me become a better climber, which is why I loved having her as my coach. So
That's
she would plan
great.
everything out for me in this program called Training Peaks. I could log into, see what I need to do that week. I could upload my ride to it, showed me all of my stats. She could see all the stats. We could communicate back and forth in the program. And she was super key for me being able to race big stage races.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
By the way, that team is still going on, the EF Education First. That's pretty cool. I love their
Yeah.
colors.
Yep.
That's awesome. So like you log in, you got your training. I was like, all right, what do I need to do? Oh, here I
Yep.
go. I got to do this today.
Oh, some of those workouts, I mean, I would tell her she was so mean. They were so brutal, but worth it in the end.
You're
But
like,
I
dude,
mean, some of them, it was almost expected that you would fail. And if
but it was done
you,
on purpose.
yes, yeah, yeah. And if you made it through, then that means the next time we just weren't going hard enough.
Got it.
and you've
So
progressed like in your training. And so you keep upping the power. And yeah, some of them were brutal workouts.
that's funny. That's funny.
Yes.
So it's meant to literally just beat you down, not, but not in a bad way, but like in a way in which you would definitely have to work, and you're on your own. So like, I mean,
Yes.
let me ask you
Yes.
this. This is something that I've always wanted to know.
Okay.
And when you guys are racing,
Hmm.
are you able to listen to music? Are you guys listening to music, or it's just straight up you and your thoughts, and then you're just racing?
Yeah. So there's no headphones allowed when you're racing. That would be super dangerous if you couldn't hear what's going on around you.
True.
There's a lot of yelling sometimes that happens in the races. A lot of not nice words you might hear. A lot of
Gotcha.
elbows getting in your rib cage sometimes to move people out of your way.
Yeah.
But I always felt that my training that Emma would give me was so hard some days that if I could do it by myself, just with my thoughts and solely focusing on how awful my legs were feeling or how my heart felt like it was going to beat out of my chest, if I could do it myself, then when I'm in a race around a
Yeah.
group of people and my adrenaline is through the roof and I'm thinking about so many other things other than just my legs wanting to fall off, I always felt like I could perform really well and do anything I was doing in training plus more at a
Okay,
race.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. Because there's a lot going on in those pelotons sometimes.
I was just gonna say, because like I've always wanted to know exactly what happens in those pelotons. Because I go, you
Yeah.
watch it on TV, and you watch like when you go to a race and you see them, and like what is actually going on. Obviously, there's a lot of in a not so nice and in a nice way. Just there's some uh, nudging
Mhm.
out of the
There
way.
is. But there's some nice talk too, because sometimes in the long races when you're on a super flat section, there's not a whole lot going on. You're just cruising really fast and
Mhm.
no one's going to be breaking away because let's say the wind is just really inhibiting that. Or, I mean, I've had some nice conversations with friends on other teams that I hadn't seen in a while. But, when the going gets tough, sometimes that stops real fast. And if people are doing things you don't like and they're disrupting your race and you need them out of the way, then there are choice words that come out of people's mouths. Um,
But
so there's
I,
both.
I would pay so much money to experience that, just to see that happening, right? Like, get the
Hmm.
out of my way.
Yeah, pretty much. A lot of F-bombs. Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
it's in my vocabulary. I use that one word a lot.
Yeah.
Um, I had to watch it though, because I have a 6-year-old, and she is a human recorder,
Oh, yeah. Hmm.
so she will repeat every single thing.
I've learned I will learn that pretty soon because my girl I just had, she's 2 months old. So we're not to that stage yet, but I do know I'm gonna have to watch myself pretty soon.
But you will.
Yes.
And let me tell you, you're gonna have a lot of fun.
Yeah.
Hope you guys enjoy so far part one of my conversation with my good friend Katie when it comes to cycling. That's right, cycling. Now, next week, we are going to finish a conversation. We're going to touch on training. We're going to touch on nutrition. What is life after cycling, right? As once you're done cycling as a semi-professional, like here in the United States, what life looked like after that. So stay tuned for that episode. Like I said, it'll come out next week. As far as the Data Chronicles, make sure you guys are following me on all socials. You know what? Do me a favor, guys. Give it 5 stars, rate, review it, all that fun stuff. Share it with someone. That way, people are able to go ahead and enjoy it as much as you can, right? The honest truth is that the more people that rate it, the more people that like it, the more that it goes into other people, right? They get to enjoy the episode and the podcast just like you guys. If you are able to watch it on YouTube, go on my YouTube channel where I do put the video episodes now, and as well as every Tuesday and Thursday nights at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, we have the Data Chronicles Sports Show. Until then, guys, keep grinding and always support the minor leagues. See ya.
This podcast is part of the Curved Brim Media Network. Here are some of the other members of Curved Brim Media.
Hi, this is Kelly Robinson, the Minor League Nerd. My YouTube channel explores the history of minor league baseball teams. More than just stats, we delve into team lineage, sharing stories from current franchises to obscure one-year wonders.
I'm Paul Caputo, and on the Baseball by Design podcast, I talk to minor league baseball teams, designers, and other super interesting people about what these minor league baseball logos mean, and I talk a little bit about ice cream helmets.
What's up, Bucketheads? I'm Anna DiTomaso, and each week on the Baseball Bucket List podcast, I speak with a different fan about their favorite baseball memories, what the game means to them, and what's left to check off on their baseball bucket list.
Hey everyone, it's Eric from the great state of Kansas.
This is Johnny from the New Orleans Baby Cakes Memorial Museum.
And we are the Earn Fun Average podcast,
where we talk to a variety of guests about their love of baseball and have fun doing it.
America, lower your standards.
Average is what we do best.
This is Patrick
and Corey
of BaseballMapper.com, and we have made an interactive map to help highlight all baseball teams from the majors down to collegiate summer leagues.
We want to bring you closer to baseball, so get on the site and find a team near you today.
Hey guys, this is Patrick Larson from the Minor League Baseball Hat History Series, and in every episode I go through the history of minor league teams through my personal collection of hats. You can find me on Twitter at @PatLarson1. I hope you guys enjoy.
Learn more about Curved Brim Media at curvedbrimmedia.com.